The tough part is when we turn this into a podcast, like we do, which I'll talk about in a minute. Podcast doesn't have the backing track that I'm playing right now, the Mario Kart.
In case you're listening to this and you can't see, our guest is pretending to be TheLift right now, which is Mark. So it's great.
Well, we were going to get to him last, but let's get to him first. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable. I am Chino. I'm your host, all the way down here in stormy Tampa, Florida, where it's still 97 degrees. Actually, it's 92 degrees, which is totally bad. Lady Aju, good afternoon. Soup and crackers because the weather is chilly. Yeah, I just said it was 92 degrees here. So joining us all the way from the middle of the Pennsylvania region is our good friend, not TheLift, but our good friend Bougie. Bougie, Chino, hello. How are you?
What's going on?
It is good to finally have you on the program. We had talked a couple of weeks ago, actually about a month or so ago, about us three of us, well, Nav and I and you playing some nerdy strategy games. And we'll get to those in just a minute here. Baggy Man in the chat as well. This is Bougie, and he's way better than Mark. I agree. Don't tell Mark I said that. He will be listening to this in podcast form, which, by the way, you can catch this on podcast. Go to luxdigitalchurch.com and you can catch the links there. You can also just search for The Roundtable in any podcast thing that you use. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon Podcast, whatever the heck you're going to use. And if you're watching this on demand on YouTube, hello. Thanks for joining us. Join us in our Discord if you want to kind of hang out with some cool people. But Bougie, with you joining us for the first time, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a very serious question, one that I'm going to ask the rest of the gang too when I get to them. Serious. But very serious. What's the game that you played that you thought you were going to hate, but you ended up really liking?
Oh boy.
I'm glad I'm not going first on this.
I can go first if it's going to help you.
We are thinking here.
I think I got it because I pretty sure we talked about it the other day. Nav, that game for me would be Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh.
I really wasn't going to like it because I think I was a sophomore, junior in high school when it came out. So I was like, I can't be the high school kid that's playing a game with Disney characters, and I can't ruin my reputation like that. So I remember my brother got it and I was like, no way, dude. Like, you can play that. I'll go do my homework. When I'm done with my homework, give me the PlayStation and I'll play Madden. But I watched him play a little bit and then I snuck some games in while he was sleeping, so nobody knew I was playing it, but I was secretly falling in love. And then finally I came out when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. I was like, hey, school, I play Kingdom Hearts. What of it?
It's not bad. It gets real bad when it gets to like Kingdom Hearts 47.2 and then like beta 7 or whatever the weird 2.17 numbers are. Did you play through all those as well?
So I remember I played whatever the card game one is. What is that, like 365 and a half or something like that?
Yeah.
362 and a half. Yeah, I played. No, the card game is Chain of Memories.
Okay. Yeah, Chain of Memories. That was on the Game Boy. I played that.
Yeah, that's I played that one. And then when they started getting into like the 362 and a half and all that stuff, I gave up. But I do have it on my Xbox now, all 6 of the first ones, everything up until Kingdom Hearts 3. And I keep looking at it and I'm like, I'm going to play through all of those one day. Maybe when the kids are in college, I'll finally be able to get the time to do that.
You need to have like a suspension of disbelief for all of those things.
Yeah.
Joining us with his Canada shirt on as well today, supporting the motherland, Templar 10, and there it is. There it is right there. We got Blocker J in the chat as well. Blocker J, good afternoon. Let us know in the chat the game that you thought you were going to hate or that you were told you were going to hate, but then you actually played it and you ended up liking it a lot. Templar, what's that game for you?
Trying to think of what it might be. I guess the one that's semi-recent I could point to would probably be Hades, because roguelikes or games where you sort of beat your head against the wall and die like 100 times, that's just not that's nothing that interests me typically. Like, I've never played any of the From Software games because nothing about that experience seems enjoyable. So roguelikes, again, where you're just constantly going in, you have one life, you die, you come back, you start over. Like, that just never sounded interesting to me at all. But I really liked Hades. I didn't end up finishing it. I got pretty close. I just moved on to other games, but I did quite enjoy it. And I only tried it out because it was so highly regarded and so well reviewed. I figured I might as well give it a shot. It wasn't that expensive. So at least that's what comes to mind in recent memory.
That's a good one. Hades, like, that's a top 10 game for me, and I hate roguelikes, so I totally get where you're coming from, though. When you beat it, it just kind of makes you go back through it, but it's not like a new game plus. Like, there's actually a lot, like, the game opens up a whole lot there. So I would recommend, like, if you want a good time after you finish Cyberpunk, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, go back to Hades and stream it, and then let the internet yell at you for how bad you are at video games. Because that'll happen. Nav from Middle America somewhere. Navalis, what is that game that you thought you were going to hate, or you were told you're going to hate, but you ended up loving?
Oh man, I was thinking, like, going through games. I'm going to bring out an old one because this is going back to the PS1 era, okay, or PSX as they call it now. My parents randomly bought me a game. This, okay, I know this is old school. My parents, there used to be like a review section for games in the newspaper of games that were coming out, and like this is when I lived in Tampa, Florida. There was like, they would have articles of someone in the paper would review games, basically. So they reviewed like from Final Fantasy games to this. Anyway, one of the games my parents saw was a game called Ape Escape.
Oh, dude, Ape Escape's awesome.
And so, but like, I had never heard of this game. For my birthday, I get this game Ape Escape, and it just shows a guy with a net with monkeys. Okay. And I'm like, what in the world did my parents get me? I'm like, he's like, I have not heard of this game. Remember, there wasn't like, internet was like a very beginning thing back then. So it was like, all that stuff. And so I was just like, what is this? Then I played it. Amazing game. Amazing. I had so much fun. I know it sounds stupid, chasing monkeys around and catching them.
But they have no pants on. You need to get the monkeys in their pants. It's so fun.
Oh, it's like, and there's monkeys that shot missiles at you, that were like all this stuff, or like trying to kill you. Monkeys that it was a great game. It was great. Like,
I love it.
You had a lightsaber you stun monkeys with. I mean, come on. You're running around. And it was one of the first games that used a dual shock controller for both like thumbsticks or joysticks. Yep. And so you control like one weapon with one joystick, so you can like swing around. It was like awesome. Just like so many. It was basically like Zelda, but chasing monkeys, because there was like so many hidden things in it. And I'm like, it was a really good game. Surprised me a lot. That was like one game.
Absolutely. Godly Talent in the chat, bigging up Canada, and then Blocker J coming back with, I love how more Canadians came in as it was Templar's turn. Absolutely. Godly Talent also striking in with, that game was Skyrim, because I came off playing RPGs like Final Fantasy, where it wasn't open world like Skyrim. I can see that. That's a totally different thing. And Blocker J comes in with Dark Souls, was like, why do I want to beat my head against a wall? And then I played it. Haha, absolutely. And Flying Blind in the chat joining us as well. And we're summoning Canadians all over the place. For me, that game honestly was Final Fantasy Tactics, because I was a big Final Fantasy head, and I was like, what is this? This is an isometric grid-based Final Fantasy game? Like, this is stupid. And then I got a piece of emulator software from a random place on the internet, and I procured a ROM of said game and started playing it, and was like, oh, this game's dope. And actually, that's what led me to want to try tactical RPG games. Particularly, that spawned me into the Fire Emblem series, which actually led me into XCOM. I don't know if you guys have ever played XCOM before. The redone version of XCOM was just fantastic. But both of them, and then the expansion in there too. Yeah, Mr. Shadow 1281, welcome to the chat as well. Welcome to Lux. Cool. Well, thanks for answering that. We've got Canadians taking over the chat. Represent. If you can, I don't know if you can do it on Twitch. If you can pop your little Canadian flag in there, we would love to see the red and the white. Do you guys have like outside of like the O Canada national anthem? Do you have like a symbol like the maple leaf, or like what do you call your colors? Anything like scarlet and white or anything like that?
Nothing like that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, the symbols, I guess the maple leaf. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what our national animal is. Maybe a beaver, maybe the beaver or something.
Beaver would probably be the best.
Moose, maybe.
Your national animal is a moose, maybe? Or a mountie?
Moose would be cooler than a beaver.
I agree. Yeah. Beavers are pretty deadly, but mooses, just moose. Anyway, we typically here in the Roundtable,
It is the beaver.
It is the beaver. Thank you. The power of power of the internet at our fingertips. Cobra chicken. Absolutely. Or a polar bear. Absolutely. Yes. Godly talent with the polar bear. Hey, so today on the Roundtable, we're going to talk about the things we've been watching, playing, consuming in nerd culture. And then we're going to start talking about the Rings of Power and kind of get into a discussion of Lord of the Rings just a little bit. But we also want to, hey, Reed, good to see you, man. We also kind of want to delve into, if we have a little bit of time, some of the spin-offs that have come from movie franchises and from TV franchises and from books, because there's a lot of stuff out there, particularly right now. But there's been a lot of stuff in the last 20 years that it feels like people are kind of running out of content. And so they're taking some things and putting them elsewhere. And so we just kind of want to have a discussion about that. But Bougie, we're going to start with you, actually. What have you been watching, listening to, consuming in nerd culture this past couple of weeks?
So nerd culture has kind of taken a back seat for me because it is football season. So I'm all about the sports and the ESPN. The ESPN Plus.
I've heard that.
What team? What teams? Or what team or teams?
He's got to be a Steelers fan.
Steelers.
So I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a Steelers fan. But I just like football in general. But as far as like everything else, I binge watched Cobra Kai season 5 in like a weekend.
You're a crazy person.
Posted in the Discord. You know, I was like, why did nobody tell me this was coming? And I just watched it an entire weekend. As far as games. So I just bought DioField Chronicles yesterday. So I got a little bit of that in. But before that, I was into Elder Scrolls Online, of course, and a little game called Surviving the Aftermath. That's kind of been my chill game that just sucks my time away.
That does not sound like a chill game.
It definitely is. But it's one of those games that you're just like, just 10 more minutes. And the next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. and you have to be at work in 3 hours.
Okay. Describe the game. I'm looking at like the trailer has like there's like a deer, and then it looks like Civ 5 and Civ 6. Like, what is this?
So it's neither Civ 5 or Civ 6. It's more like RimWorld. Okay. You get a population, you have to manage their happiness and their hygiene. You have to research tech, manage food and water. It has like a world map. So you have to go into the world map and you meet other colonies who are kind of trying to survive as well. You can trade with them, sabotage them, help them out so they help you out. Just things like you scavenge the world. Just things like that, so you have natural disasters that you have to prepare for, like winter storms, heat waves, nuclear fallouts, meteor storms, like all that stuff. So, yeah, I've been trying to get a decent colony going on like 200% difficulty, which is just like the ground is completely barren. There's very little people, stuff like that. So one wrong move can just completely wipe out your colony. And it's like, you might as well just reload the game and start over from square one. So I think on my current.
And that's a chill game for you.
Yeah. Cause it's just like, I want to put an outhouse here, we're going to bury everybody that dies here. Let's put a fishing pier here,
Pleasant.
Where can you play this game at?
It's on everything. I've actually bought it twice. I have it on my Xbox and on my Switch. But it's on PlayStation. It's on Steam.
I'll have to check this out.
They just dropped their first DLC, I think, in August.
It is a Paradox game, which makes sense.
It is a Paradox game, which my other favorite Paradox game is City Skylines, which is my other chill game. So they go hand in hand.
But that's like
those
a
are pretty
legitimate.
much
That's a legitimate chill game. That's like
that.
not a whole lot can go wrong in that game.
So Cities is my chill game when I don't want to challenge. Surviving the Aftermath is my chill game when I kind of want to challenge.
Okay,
because just everything goes right in Cities. There's nothing that goes wrong.
Right.
Unless I crank up tornadoes and summon a meteor storm myself, nothing goes wrong in Cities. So
comment of the day so far goes to Beggy Man, who says Bougie enjoys the quote death and sickness simulator.
It's true. It's true.
Absolutely. Cool. Templar, what have you been watching, playing, listening to, consuming in nerd culture?
Sure. So part of it's connected. You mentioned Cyberpunk, which I have been playing that quite a bit, Cyberpunk 2077. And I got back into that because of a show on Netflix that they released recently. I think it was maybe a week ago, called Cyberpunk Netrunners, and which is an anime. So it's a Japanese show based in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. So it's in Japanese with subtitles. The dub is pretty good, although I know that's sacrilege for anime. But hey, if anyone is not a big fan of subtitles, the dub is pretty good of it. And it just got me really interested in the world again. The show I thought was very well done. For anyone who's interested in checking it out, I would say there's a fair bit of nudity and there's some content issues in it. So be aware if you are gonna check it out, that there's some stuff there. It is definitely a more mature show, but it's a very well done show. The characters are interesting. The progression is quite cool. And it's just one season. It's not like I don't think they're going to do anything else with it. I think it's just one season and they're done. But I watched that, and then that got me interested in trying it out again, because I did get it when it came out, and it wasn't as broken for me. I didn't have as many issues when I was playing it on PC as many people did. But it's been, I guess, almost 2 years since it came out at this point. It's hard to believe it's been that long. Yeah. But they've released some major patches. And since I've been playing it, other than some like minor clipping issues and things like that, I haven't noticed any problems. And it runs quite well. And I've been having a good time with the game. So I would say if you're interested in if you like first-person RPGs, I mean, I don't know how expensive it is now, but I'd imagine you could pick it up on the cheaper side. So I would say it's worth it at this point to jump in.
Yeah,
it still has
No, go ahead.
It still has its problems, but I think, not because it's broken, just because, it's not a perfect game, but overall it's quite fun.
I believe it's on sale on Steam right now for like $20 or $30. And I believe you can get it for like the PS5 and Xbox around the same price. So
yeah, I can't speak to the console experience. PS5 and Series X in that, it's probably okay. Now I know previous gen consoles, I still don't think it's really running great. I played it on. Yeah, I said I played it on the Series X, so I haven't had it. I played a couple hours and I never had any issues. At least those couple hours. Yeah, so it seems like it's in good shape. So yeah, I've been into Cyberpunk. Listening to Blackpink came out with a new album last week, so I've been rocking that. Hey, it's a great album. So if anyone's interested, hey,
I love it.
Some Blackpink. I've been rocking out to that.
Okay,
and I feel like that's about it. Something else might come to mind, and then I've been watching Rings of Power, and I checked out Andor this week as well, but I'm sure we'll talk about that on a future episode, so I'll save that discussion.
How many albums does Blackpink have? 2, 3? Do we know?
Full albums, 2.
Okay.
K-pop's kind of different that way. They tend to release more
singles.
They'll do a lot more singles or like mini albums where it'll be like 3 or 4 songs. For them to actually release full albums is somewhat rare. And a full album for them is like 8 songs.
Becky Man just put that album on the shelves there at Target.
There you go, man.
That's awesome. Getting your
pink.
I love it. Cool. Nav, what have you been watching, listening to, consuming in nerd culture?
Let's see, this week watching. I haven't been watching a lot, unfortunately. Just been a really busy week since last time we met. Well, actually, a couple of weeks since last time we met. I finished Only Murderers in the Building, doing that, the season 2. It's a really good show. Check it out, guys. It has Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. So it's a really unique duo, but really they really work well together, and it's like really good. And so definitely check that show out. Been trying to catch up some shows on Netflix, Cobra Kai for this weekend, so I need to see season 5. I'm like, I gotta do that. I've been playing Xenoblade 3. I'm almost done with it. I'm like in the last dungeon area going to the final boss. And so I plan on knocking that out tomorrow. So I just maybe only have a couple more hours left in that game. So then I'm going to move on to Diofield Chronicles. Okay.
Let's go.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So been looking forward to that. But I told myself I have to finish Xenoblade 3 before I start Diofield Chronicles because I won't go back to Xenoblade for a long time. So like it's like I have to finish this. I'm like I've been like racing because I had like September 22nd, whatever. I'm like I gotta finish Xenoblade first. But anyway, Xenoblade, one of the best RPGs I played. Okay,
well, now you've said that a couple times somewhere before. Like, what makes it one of the best in your opinion?
Okay, story. The combat is I really like the combat. It's more of an MMO style combat. So you can switch, but what makes it so interesting is the combat doesn't get boring, even though it's like an MMO, because you have up to 7 characters in your party battling at one time, but you can switch between all the characters easily and to pull off their combos and stuff. And so it's like then also like each class, you can switch between, if you're like the main character, he's a sword fighter class. But you can, if you get tired of being a sword fighter, you can switch his class to a healer, so switch all his armor, accessories up, the gems up, which power up, and go with a totally different style of fighting for your main character. And you can, there's no consequences doing that. You don't lose anything. So you can switch between several different classes. You can switch between the characters. So the combat's always interesting, and they're always like building the combat up. It's never the same. They're like, okay, you've gone this far. Here's a new wrinkle to the combat. Then, oh yeah, halfway through, here's another little new wrinkle. So it like throws a whole new like level of skill in. The side quests, honestly, I have not played The Witcher 3. Okay, they say The Witcher 3 side quests, or some of them are pretty good. They say they're like mini like DLC stories.
More on that in a minute.
Yeah. Here there's like these hero side quests for your main characters that delve more into the backstory, but also for other characters you can get and your party and stuff like that. Like, so like those are all like mini stories basically that can take you anywhere from like 30 minutes to 2 hours to complete that stuff. But it's a story though. It's like a story about that character and your party and their relationship, the background relation. It's pretty cool. And so that's really cool. And my favorite thing with this game, they give you all 6 starting party members at the very beginning. So it's not like you have to like gradually you get this character, you get this character. So you have all the starting characters, but then you can add more characters to that you switch one optional slot out. But anyway, there's nothing, and the story is really good. It has a really emotional impact in the middle of the game that kind of choked me up. It was like very few games do that. And so there's like a very strong, you're just kind of like sitting there like, they're not going to do this. Then they're like, they just went there. It was like one of those moments. Like, did not know, it's like kind of like one of those things. So without spoiling, I liked it a lot. If you like it, MMO style, like fighting and like good story, side quest, I'm at the 69-hour mark right now. And I've done a lot of I've done a lot of side quests and everything. If you did no side quests and just did the main story, about 45, 50 hours. But since I've done a lot of the side quests and everything, just because it was interesting, it's just like, to me, it was like playing, and this is high praise. When I first played Breath of the Wild, it was like just like the exploration, like this is so cool. The exploration is this. You're like, I want to go over here and see this. I want to go check this out. I want to go see what's over here because there's like treasures and caves and stuff to explore. But I'm enough ranting. But there's a lot of inspiration from Breath of the Wild. Of course, Monolith is owned by Nintendo, and Monolith and the Zelda team have worked together, so you can see like a lot of the back and forth right there. So
is there 2 things? Number one, is there that dumb stamina thing? The worst part about Breath of the Wild, I loved it. Stamina was the worst thing in the world. Secondly, was their weapon degradation.
Okay, I'm going to give you 3 things. 1, you can run for as long as you want.
Sweet.
And so you click the joystick in, and it just runs automatically in a direction. So you can just like do that. Weapons. One of the best thing is your character set, unless you switch classes, you get different weapons, but you basically have the same weapon throughout the whole game. So you don't have to worry about the weapon breaking, getting a more powerful weapon. You're just upgrading the weapon. So it's a lot easier. And the third thing is, if you ever play Xenoblade 2, there was things called blades, which were like these kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but they are basically like your weapon spirit or something like that. Okay. Anyway, but it was like a gotcha system. So you had to like randomly roll to get like better ones, and there was rarities. That's not here. None of that. So you don't have to like worry about like, oh, I don't have the best thing right here. It's like you can get all of it easy. Like all the problems in Xenoblade 1 and 2, they fix, and Xenoblade 3 is basically like the perfect Xenoblade game. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I ranted. I'm sorry, but go ahead. I'm done.
There's too many games right now, and there's way not enough time, and it's not on Steam Deck, so I don't know if I can play it. Outside of that, like I've had it sitting in my Nintendo wish list on my Switch forever, or for the past month since it come out, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. So you're sort of convincing me, but then I looked off to my side and I saw my Steam Deck just sitting there in the cradle, and it was like, oh.
I will say that will make the experience better. There's like these little add-on Joy-Cons that can make the controller more comfortable. Do that, because I play handheld a lot, and I played it so much my hands like started hurting. I was like, okay, I need these things. Like, I was like, why are my hands hurting? I'm like, I've been holding this. The Switch is uncomfortable to hold. I'll be honest. Yeah. It's uncomfortable to hold. Okay. And I'm like, I need these. So that's what I recommend to do that. But it's an amazing game. I want to play my Steam Deck more, but this game has like me hooked. Honestly, I was like, I put it down to play my Steam Deck. And then because I just got that too, but I'm like, I really want to see what happens in Xenoblade. So I went back to that. That's how good the game is. Okay, there you go.
High praise, man. I'm breathless right now. I'm going to go real quick. Actually, Redacted says that they want to do a Cobra Kai watch party. If we can make it happen, we would make it happen. I don't know how we would get by the legality of that. Maybe everybody shares a Netflix account and we all hit start at the same time. I don't know, but I would love to do something like that in a community night. We've watched Flubber before, right? Yeah, I thought we watched Flubber a couple months ago.
I think it was like a movie thing. I didn't take part in that one, but
it was a joke. It was a joke. Mark
I thought they were actually watching Flubber.
Everyone wants to watch Flubber.
I thought they were actually. I thought Hold'em and Mark actually watched it.
I don't think that did that actually happen. I don't know. They watched Eternals one night. I know.
All right, I'm gonna go. And here's the thing: I started out the last couple of weeks just doing normal nerd stuff, watching Rings of Power, and kind of just like puttering around, like waiting, and then was playing a lot of Destiny, obviously with my son, streaming that. And then I got a magical email last Tuesday saying, hey, your Steam Deck, which was supposed to be, according to Nav's thing, the website that he gave me that told me when my Steam Deck was supposed to come in, it was not supposed to come in until like Christmas. Hey, Andy, your Steam Deck is ready to be shipped, and you got 72 hours to accept this deal. And I accepted it within like 5 minutes because I had saved the money forever and ever and ever. I got the thing on my phone. I immediately hit order, and it was in my hot hands literally a week later. And so it's a Friday right now. I've had this thing for 2 days. It is everything that it was.
It's amazing.
Sold. It is amazing. And I'm going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to tear it down a little bit. I'm going to give you some cons, but then I'm going to give you mostly pros. Here we go. The cons, right off the bat, the battery life is awful. Just absolutely horrendous. I can tinker with things. I'm a tinkerer. I love to get in and get under the hood, and we'll talk about that in a second. I can play games up to like 4 and 5 hours. I played Civ 6 for about 4.5 hours. It was awesome.
Those are rookie numbers. You got to step those numbers up, Chino. Come on, man.
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying. I did the whole thing. Hey, Pastor Savage, good to see you, dude. Thanks for joining in here. So So the battery life is awful. The screen, I'm used to 2 big 4K 27-inch curved monitors here, and then going to a screen that's right here. It's bad. And I also have the OLED Switch model because my first Switch died, and I have the OLED Switch, and the screen is actually not as good as the OLED Switch model on the Steam Deck. So there is that. The speakers are not that good. It's heavy. It is very, very heavy. It's ergonomic. Like holding it is real nice. The buttons feel real good. There's a good travel. There's a good play. It's stupid, but it smells good. Like when that fan turns on. Nav, tell me you haven't done this, where you've stuck your nose over that fan and smelled the sweet plastic burning in there.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
You're not a true Steam Deck owner until you turn that sucker on and crank something up to 60 FPS and let it go. And outside of all that, like it gets kind of tacky on your hands. And maybe that's because I'm in Florida and I've got sweaty palms, but it gets kind of gross. And so I bought like a here. You're not gonna be able to see it, but there's like a guard around it that I bought for like $15, and so I can grab it and it feels a lot better in my palms. And I also put a screen protector on there because I'm an idiot, because I don't want to scratch it. But let me get to what's amazing about this thing. First of all, the very first thing that I did when I turned it on, installed Steam, did the whole setup process, and then immediately hit the power button and went to desktop, because this thing, knees weak, arms are heavy, mom spaghetti. That's what we're doing. There's vomit on his sweater already, mom spaghetti. The idea that this thing is built on a Linux backbone makes my nerd tinkerer heart so happy. I immediately went to the desktop. I immediately switched some permissions around. I immediately installed 3 or 4 different packages and different kind of assorted things that are going to automatically update, so that now I can play Game Pass on there, so that now I can have like a Netflix type thing on there if I want to. I have access right here on this thing to my server that's sitting back there. I build my own servers. I've got a server back there that does a whole lot of things. And so I've got this hooked up to the server for game backups. If I want to go get a game on an SD card, I can pull the thing off my server and then send it back there. I've got a remote Steam install on my server that I can just take this thing, and if I don't want to use the actual internal battery, I can stream off of Steam. I can do a whole lot with this thing because it is a mini computer right here. It's amazing. The speakers are actually not bad. Surprisingly, it's just these 2 little speakers, but there's a good distance and a good travel. Like I already said, the buttons are real good, but they have these like 2 pad button. You can listen to how that sounds. Like, oh, that's a good sound for a button. They have these like 2 pad buttons on the back that are great, and they're actually very useful. The community around this thing is real good. There's a lot of games. If you go to, it's built off this dependency called Proton. And if you go to a website called protondb.com, there's thousands of games out there that the community is just like installed and tried, and hey, do this, hook this dependency up and make sure you put this in the command line, and it'll do a whole bunch of things. Like I got, I was able to, so one of the first games I played when I finally got it back out of Game Pass, I played Deathloop for a little bit just to see if Game Pass was going to work. It does. It's great. Everything maps where it should. It feels like an Xbox controller. It's freaking dope. And then I turned on The Witcher, and I turned The Witcher up to 60 FPS and put high detail or ultra. No, it was high frame rate and all the stuff. And then, so you can do that in the game. And then in the actual Steam Deck overlay, you can actually go in and mess with the frame rate settings, and you can mess with the clock speed, and you can mess with the graphics cards. You can get down to the nitty gritty of even turning down the power draw. I'm losing a lot of people here. I'm sorry, but you can turn down the power draw or turn it up. So you can like basically overclock this thing. I know Templar's fallen asleep. I'm almost done. Trust me. Yep, there he is. He's gone. But all that to say, so you can scale this thing way up if you're plugged in. And then I was able to actually play The Witcher for 4.5 hours from a full battery down to 10%. I scaled all my frame rate back. I turned the TDP up. There's a half shader thing. I mean, I went through all the list of things and got it so that I could play it at 60 FPS full amazing, or like, hey, I'm going to be on a plane for a couple hours and all I want to do is play The Witcher. And it's outstanding. And I understand why the pushback from the community has been, hey, I've got a PC with a 2080 or a 3080 or a 3070 in it. Why would I need one of these things? I have a PC right here with a 3070 in it. No, 2080, sorry, in it. The 3070 I sent off. The 2080 here, which runs like a dream. I can run anything that I want on Ultra. And I am finding myself picking this thing up more than actually turning my PC on. Now, granted, it's new tech and all this, but like I can sit there with my wife and play The Witcher, or I downloaded Elden Ring and I'll play it for 15 minutes and then do my nightly I can't do Elden Ring anymore, and then turn it off after 15 minutes while I'm sitting next to my wife. It's amazing. So anyway, highly recommend the Steam Deck. Nav, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, we can talk more. I have a few things I want to talk to you about the Steam Deck, about Game Pass and other things, but
cool.
It's a pretty amazing system from what I played. I'm enjoying it. It's like a laptop that's a controller that has, you can do anything. So anyway, it's good. It's good.
It's awesome. And the other cool thing, and this is my last thing, these little pads up on the front of it are they're touch pads. And so you can use it for depending on how you've mapped it, you can use it as a mouse. And there's actually a really cool haptic feedback so that when you're mousing over, so you know that you're actually using it, it like ticks a little bit, like when you're moving it, so that you know you're actually moving something. You would think it's stupid, and you can click it as a button. You would think it'd be stupid, but it's the most helpful thing in the world to know, like, hey, there's like a tactile feedback to it. Oh, all right. I'm watching our subscribers start to fall away. Actually, our viewers just went up there. Cool. So let's transition a little bit. Thank you for letting me just get happy faces all over the place. I appreciate you guys. Let's move into something a little bit different here. Lord of the Rings time, says Navalis. Absolutely. So we have been watching the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. This is where we're going to need a little of y'all's help in the chat as well. We would love to know your thoughts on the Rings of Power. As of today, September 23rd, as we record this, there are 5 episodes out, correct? Only 5? Or is there 6? I think there's only 5 right now.
5
out. The 5th one just came out today. Bougie, you're halfway through the 5th episode, right?
Yep.
Nav, how far have you gotten?
I haven't watched the 5th one yet.
Okay. And Templar, how far are you?
I finished the 5th episode.
Okay. So, and I'm halfway through the 4th. So we're all in kind of that area. We're going to keep this spoiler light, even though I don't know that spoilers are necessarily a thing, but there are going to be a couple of minor spoilers. So we'll try to keep it off the radar because there is some story stuff here going on. And what we talked about before in the pre-show is that typically when we do a roundtable, each person kind of gives their pros and cons, but instead, and then we move on. Instead, we want to give pros for the entire crew, and then we're going to go cons for the entire crew, just to kind of have a conversational aspect to this. So, Templar, I know these are going to be very short for you, but I'm going to start with you, and then we're going to open it up. What is one of your pros? What is one of the things that you like about what the Rings of Power is doing?
The production value is high.
Okay.
I mean, visually, the show looks good for the most part. They did a good job with that. So in terms of pros, that would be one of them.
Okay. What else, guys? Anything? What else do we like about the Rings of Power?
I would say just kind of the production values, costume wise, I think they're faithful to the look of the movies that came out. And so I think in a lot of like the armor and stuff like that. I don't know. I think of that, so I saw that I felt like I was going back in time, like I was. So that the nostalgia was there, just like the whole scenery and the settings and stuff like that. I think they did that very well. Like you can tell they took time and care for that. It wasn't like watching what's the other show that Amazon did? The Wheel of Time. Okay, the Wheel of Time series. And so like I had issues with the costumes and the production values of that a lot.
Yeah.
And so, but that's a whole different show. But anyway,
absolutely.
So
Lakara with the sub. Thanks so much for the sub, the tier 1 sub. We appreciate that. We appreciate all those things. When you say it took you back in time, did it take you back to the original trilogy? Is that where it took you?
Yeah. Yeah. Not so much the Hobbit and stuff like that. I had mixed feelings about the Hobbit still, the movies. I still have mixed feelings about those. But it took me back to like the original trilogy, and just kind of like nothing can beat the original trilogy. I don't think. Just like how it was just like one of those shows, like phenomenal movies, I think. But it's just like the costumes and everything, some of the characters and everything, you're like, oh wait, are they gonna like? I was like, I'm sitting there like, okay, which elves are gonna go in the show? Because I stayed away from all spoilers and everything for the show, and I knew like Galadriel was gonna be at an Elrond, but it was like, who else are gonna show and stuff like that. So I think there were some really cool aspects, and also that they're exploring a little bit more of things that were mentioned in the original trilogy, which is really cool. And so it's like, oh, this is what this place looks like. This is what this place looks like, Numenor and everything and stuff like that. Anyway, there's like things like that. Like you finally get to see like what your imagination had, or like you've seen drawings of. Now you see it like on a screen, and you're like, this is pretty sick.
Bougie, what do you got?
I'm with Templar. The production value is high. The things that are supposed to look cool. But yeah. That's a short list, but yeah.
I hope the production values are high when they spend like $500 million doing this.
I think we all three just said the same thing.
The things that are supposed to look cool. Well, yeah, when you spend $97 million an episode or whatever it is, yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing, what is it, Numenor or whatever. I've seen that for the first time. My wife was downstairs with me. She was kind of cleaning. I was like, hey, stop. Look at that city. It looks really cool. And she was like, oh, how would you even build something like that? And I was like, I don't know.
A lot of computers. Cool. That's how you build it. A lot of computers. Absolutely.
I do like some of the characters, though. There's some character. I'm going to say, just to be different. I know Templar disagrees with me, but I will talk about that. I think some of the characters are decent how they do. But anyway.
Well, which characters in particular?
Let's see here. Okay. My wife. Okay. This is because I remember for me, I think Galadriel's like so. Okay. Just her character wise. I'm just going to start this. My wife really likes her character. Okay. And this is like, she's like, this is like what I expect a younger Galadriel would be. This is what she said. I'm like, okay. I'm like, she's watched Lord of the Rings and everything with me and stuff like that. And I'm one of those people that will just randomly put Lord of the Rings on in the background as I do stuff around the house. Cause it's just like, it's 3.5 hours. I'm like, it's good scenery backstrap, I kind of like Elrond's character. I mean, I do like Elrond's character, and I like kind of like the relationships that he's delving into from him and Galadriel's relationship to the prince, Durin. What's his name? Durin. Yeah. Prince Durin, seeing that. I think that's really cool. The relationship between him and like because, elves and dwarves did not get along like in the original trilogy until Legolas and Gimli. So this is kind of like, you feel like this is like, you're seeing like this kind of friendship between the elf and the dwarf here and stuff. And I kind of like where that kind of storyline is going. I'm interested to see like where their friendship goes with that, because, there's things he's asked the dwarf kingdom to do, and Prince Durin is kind of in charge of that. So anyway, those are like the two main, like the other, who's like the elf warrior guy. Oh, what's his name?
I can't remember his name. He's in my cons list.
Hang on. I'm looking at
like
the name.
Arondir.
Oh,
Arondir. Okay.
I have no clue. Okay. This is like one of the cons. I have no clue what they're doing with this character.
No, don't do cons yet. Don't get there.
Okay. And so, okay, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to think. Numenor was a big con too. I think the whole city, the politics of it, everything, I thought that was very interesting.
Legolas. So redacted in the chat says Legolas. Good call. Yes, good call. Keep going. I cut you off now. Sorry.
No. Numenor, I think the politics behind that, just to see how the city runs and everything, how they delved into the politics a little bit with that, with the kingdom, and the just like the stuff you see between, you kind of like got a little bit of aspect how the city, then also kind of like the visions and stuff like that. That's pretty interesting. But I'm just going to stop there because I'm trying to keep a spoiler light. So I'm not trying to like really delve into things. So because I have to be careful.
Well, I mean, one of my pros is that they are trying to do interesting things with the story. They're trying to do interesting things with source text that was never fully written, and that was published by Tolkien's son, Christopher. And they are, how do I put this? Redacted says, haven't actually started watching The Rings of Power yet. Maybe you're not going to after a few minutes. Watch
it. It's don't, even our cons don't. I still think it's good. I'm not harsh on it.
I'm going to give it a solid 6 right now. But okay, so the pros, yes, it looks good. Yes, some of the character development that doesn't involve Galadriel and the king of all men that she found on a raft accidentally.
Spoiler.
Dang it. Whatever. It's not
okay.
Aragorn yet.
No.
It becomes Aragorn later. Like some of that stuff's okay. The orcs are fine. That one battle scene with the Arondir, and when he was like doing the Jet Li stuff with the chain tied around his leg and he like whipped the orcs, that was kind of cool. And then his friend stood up. Okay, let's get to cons because there's more cons here. Like, what are they doing? Why is the elf leaving? He crawls over the trench. He gets there. He sees the trees and then he stops. What are you doing? Like, yes, I understand he had an arrow sticking out of his chest. Like, what are you doing, dude? Just keep running. You're an elf. Go.
No. If you know anything about like with the elves, like they're very in tune to nature. I think he was so shocked by like the landscape was wiped out of so many trees. And so it was like, you've been down in this ditch for such a long time. You're supposed to be like in this middle of this forest. Basically, you get up and for miles around you, there's no more forest. And I think it was trying to get the point of like elves are, like I said, elves are very in tune to nature. They like regard trees differently than humans do and everything else. And so I think it was like one of those things that you're shocked that like it was just trying to do a stark contrast. Maybe they didn't do it well, but that's what I got from it. It was like you just like walked out into bright sunlight for the first time in ages and you're just like looking around and things have changed all around you. You're kind of stunned. And so that's why I figure then you got shot with an arrow. So
this whole plot line with what's going on in the Southlands, like I know the Southlands ends up turning into Mordor, so like I get it. But it's
spoiler
from
Lord of the Rings.
I mean, that's just like lore stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it's lore stuff.
I just don't get what's happening with it because it's like the elves are there watching over this area and they're at the watchtower, whenever, and presumably they've been there for like hundreds of years or like a couple thousand years since like the first Age of War with Morgoth. And then all of a sudden the king just is like, okay, the evil's gone now. And then they leave. And then like immediately after they discover these orcs and they start getting in these fights. And then the Arondir guy goes after them. And it's like, wait, can we not just call for help and be like, hey guys, the orcs aren't gone. Like they're still here. And then, I mean, it gets to episode 5 and like the confrontation is, I won't give it anyway, but it's coming more towards a head of like the confrontation that's going to happen. And it's like, did we not try calling the elves back to be like, hey, like you left like a day or two ago? Or they're just gone now? Like they just can't come back to these lands to help out? Like we're not going to let them know that there's like a ton of orcs here now? I don't understand. Like they've been watching over this land for like 2,000 years, but now they're like, we out. And then we can't send a message to them and be like, hey, actually guys, like the day after you left, we found a bunch of orcs and stuff. Could you like come back and help out with this? Like, it's just not an option. I don't understand. Like, I get that, like, because it's a prequel, they know where they have to get to with it, like with that area, but still, like, it doesn't even seem like there's any effort being made to explain, like they didn't even try. Like, they're not even trying to take back these lands. And then Galadriel, off of like no information, is trying to get help to come, but she doesn't even really know what's going on there. It's just like this guy said this is happening and she had a hunch. So she's like trying to get a whole army to go back. But like the elf there with the people can't like call some elves that have been there for thousands of years to come get help to like fight these orcs. Like, I don't understand. It just doesn't, like, all of that doesn't really make sense to me. And then like, while we're doing negatives, none of these characters are likable. Like, I'm sorry. I don't hate them. It's not like, I don't even hate this show overall. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not, I don't like aggressively want my time back after watching it. But like, I'm not particularly enjoying myself either. Like, it all seems like it's building and like, I hope it gets somewhere interesting, but so far it just hasn't gone anywhere. Like, it's just been boring. Like, and then there's Gandalf and it's like, well, it's, Ian McKellen's great. I loved him, but what I would prefer is like a young brain damaged Gandalf who can't speak and can't do anything. Like, that's what I wanted from Gandalf. Like, that's the Gandalf I'd rather see in my Lord of the Rings. And it's just like, what is this? And like, they're with these like hobbit, halflings, half whatever they are that like seem to serve no purpose. And like, I don't understand why they're even in the show. Like, just because the hobbits were like the main point in Lord of the Rings doesn't mean you need like little people in this show too, unless you're going to do something with them that makes sense. And they haven't done that.
I will say one thing with the halfwoods though. They're like vicious. Okay. Yeah. It's like, you're too slow. Oh, yeah. You die.
Yeah. That guy, like, you broke your ankle. Get out of here.
Yeah. It's like, we travel literally like 1,000 miles every year. And if you can't make that journey, we're just going to leave you to die and we'll have a ceremony for you next year. Like, that's it. It's like, what is this plan? Like, I don't understand the need for any of this. Have you guys ever read the Silmarillion?
Red Dad
Dad.
I
tried.
Thanks for joining in. Yeah.
When I was like 15, 16, I tried a couple times to read it. I couldn't do it. Maybe all this is in the Silmarillion. I don't think so. I think Silmarillion's like first age stuff, but I don't know. I'm not that deep on the lore. But yeah, anyway, I don't know.
I had the book at one point. I read it, but I can't remember anything from it, honestly. I mean, I remember some things, but like how like Middle Earth.
It's a tough read.
It is a very tough read. I have like a dusty copy from like the early 80s sitting somewhere in a box somewhere. And I read through half of it and I was like, this reads like an Encyclopedia Britannica more than anything.
Anyway, I don't want to go. I already am ranting a little bit. So like, okay. What are your guys' negatives?
Redacted was asking, are they making story changes? I don't know because they are. Like we just talked about the Silmarillion. Red Dad says I'm barely into the show and haven't caught up, but much of this is in there. Maybe a different perspective, but it tells the entire history of creation before Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I mean, from what I can remember of Silmarillion, there is some of this in there. The Numenor stuff, definitely. The Southland stuff, definitely. I don't remember much of the elven dude who's captured. I don't remember much of that, and I don't remember anything about the Harfoots. Maybe they were there. Maybe they're the progenitors to hobbits and hobbiton. I don't know. Maybe they all just got fat and happy after their thousands of miles of travel and settled in the Shire. Like, who knows? One thing that really is grinding my gears about the entire show right now, again, going back to the King of All Men, is that guy is I don't know if he's a terrible actor or if I just don't like his character, but the way he portrays the character, but he seems like the most awful of people. Like everything's fine. And then all of a sudden he starts a random fight with 4 dudes and then breaks some guy's arm. Like, what is that? Everything's fine. And he's like protecting his friends. And then he just decides to like let a raft get destroyed with like 4 other people on it. What is that? So like, I don't know if there's evil in this guy's heart. Like maybe something clears up in episode 5 that I'm not thinking about. Zeph says thinking we should go through some more historical things after the ring, have some more context, I suppose. I mean, maybe they'll do another season. I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to do. Yeah. When they bought the rights, they had to do 5 seasons, so there will be 5 seasons of this.
Holy crap! 5 seasons.
I don't know if I can do that.
They're contractual obligated to do 5 seasons. So maybe that's why they're doing this slow burn. It's a really slow burn. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, Red Dad.
They're fitting 2 seasons into 5 seasons.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, I'm all for slow burns. I mean, I went through Game of Thrones, and that's a pretty slow burn. You know, I've done the whole political thing, but the whole stuff with Numenera or whatever it is, it didn't. It just seemed like ticky tack to me. I wasn't about it. I'm with Templar. Like the character, I think I like one character, and that's
Durin.
What's her name? Poppy.
Oh, Poppy's cool.
Hippie?
Yeah.
You know, because she's the only one who kind of has some common sense and is like, let's not touch the man who just fell from the sky.
Yeah.
Let's not be out here where there's wolves. You know, let's go be what we're supposed to be. Everyone else just kind of has these weird, like, I'm going to act on my instincts because the instincts are always real. And it's like, you're not making sense, you know, and the hidden agendas that they try to put in there, the backstabbing or whatever, you see them coming a mile away. You know, I'm not feeling the show. You know, I'm not mad that I'm watching it, but I would have finished episode 5 today, but I fell asleep in the first like 15 minutes about 3 times and I had to rewind it.
Now, granted, you have to get up at like 3 o'clock to go to work. So there is that.
Yes, but I would like, I'm not a big Tolkien fan. I mean, I love high fantasy and I love the original trilogy, never watched The Hobbit. So I was kind of hoping that this would at least grab my attention enough to at least keep me awake. But when I have to watch Galadriel go through a library scroll to randomly find a symbol that the one old guy just happens to remember amongst 1,000 of scrolls, I'm probably going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, that fight you were talking about, that was like the one thing that actually woke me up because it came out of nowhere to me. I mean, I could tell he was going to do what he did and the whole thing was going to happen. But when he popped up and he let out that scream, I jumped up, you know, and he did his thing and I woke up and I was ready to fight some people.
Yeah.
You know, my kids were right there and I was like, hey, do you want to get thrown around on the couch right now? Because I am pumped up.
And they said, yes,
but
Daddy.
They love it. They love it. But I think I count there's like 5 different storylines going on right now. And
so there's Galadriel. And Galadriel, but then Galadriel had left Elrond. So you've got the Elrond and Durin thing happen. We don't actually know if the Elrond thing. And so like, here's the thing. And maybe episode 5 clears this up. And Rad Dad had some good stuff in there. So Rad Dad, have you guys read Lord of the Rings or only watched the movies? I read the Lord of the Rings about every 18 months. I read all 3 of them. I am constantly going through those books. It's like just a thing. Me and Tom Bombadil we're tight. But like, and so the movies, like I'm good with. And Rad Dad, I appreciate your perspective on this, actually, who he says, and I'm going to back up real quick. They're going to take artistic liberty with the story, but I'm sure it's like that's what they're attempting to do. Sadly, I think it falls flat on most people because all we really know is Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It's really hard to get into a story like this when you have that as a starting point from our perspective. But I think we could probably agree that if you don't really know Tolkien and his worldview, you're not going to get that to come through in the story. A company like Amazon is not going to see that depth in his writing. I agree. And also the idea that he says, dude, that's awesome. They're on my yearly list too. Yes. And I have read House of Tom Bombadil. It is fantastic. Tom Bombadil's my dude. He's my spirit. You can't say spirit animal. He's just my spirit. I just wish they took a little more liberty with their character. It just seems like we're doing the original trilogy all over again. We have the human who doesn't want to be the king. Yep.
We have the angry female warrior who just wants to kill everything.
Yep.
You know, we have the hellbent evil character who's just lurking in the shadows constantly.
Yep.
You know, it's just, can we do something just a little bit different to just spice it up and, you know, mix it up a little bit?
So it's basically, this is the Star Wars episode 7 of the Star Wars trilogy.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Bougie. It's the same thing again, but worse. Like, it just, like, at least those stories I was interested in. Like, I mean, Viggo Mortensen's a much better actor than whoever this guy from the Southlands is. I don't care about. But, like, and that's going to happen. That's fair enough. And, like, for what Rad Dad was saying in the chat, like, that's all fair. My issues with the show are not primarily the changes from the source material. I don't know the Silmarillion that well. I mean, I know some of the lore. And I don't know how much of this even is in the Silmarillion and how much is just stuff they're kind of making up, like just to kind of fill in the gaps. it's not that well executed. Like, it's not that it's necessarily like, oh, they butchered the lore. It's just like, I don't like any of these characters. I think the writing is like Tolkien-esque, and I can see that they're sort of trying to get some of those lines that you get in like the original movies and that, but there's none of it quite gets there for me. And like all of these subplots are happening that, yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense that they want to do 5 seasons because nothing is happening. Like, things are happening on screen, but it doesn't really feel like it's going anywhere, or like the plot's actually being moved forward. You know, something like Game of Thrones that you mentioned, Bougie, like, yeah, that's a slow burn as well. But I was always engaged with what was happening in the first few seasons, even if there's not a ton like moving forward. The writing was very good. The characters were engaging. But in this case, it's not. I find when they try to go for that Tolkien-esque sort of vibe, it just feels like it sort of falls flat, and I can't get into it. And Galadriel's just annoying. I'm sorry. Like, people have been calling her a Karen and whatever. And like, I don't know, but like, she's just obnoxious. Like, she just doesn't, I don't care. Like, I get it. You're angry and you've been fighting all these years. But like, every time you're on screen, you're so annoying. Like, I just don't care. I'm not interested. And you haven't done enough for me to buy you as the badass. And then like everything is being played off that. Like, you had a little bit of action in the first episode and that was fine. And then in episode 5, she has a little bit of action. I won't give that away if you haven't watched it yet, but that reminded me more of the Hobbit movies than it did of the Lord of the Rings. And that's not good. So it's just, I can't get into any of it. Like, to me, the best subplot is maybe the Durin and Elrond stuff. But even there, I don't care. I don't care about what's happening. It's not engaging. So like, even though like some of the stuff with Durin is funny, and like I like some of the banter back and forth and that, and like his wife is pretty funny. Durin's like wife, the princess there, I thought she does a pretty good job. She's not in the show a lot yet though. But I don't really care about the overall political intrigue events that are happening beyond their like interactions, even if their interactions themselves are fun.
Go ahead, Bougie.
Galadriel, she irks me to my core. It's just every time she's on screen, I just know there's going to be some crazy one-liner. I'm the boss, listen to me type thing. And I already hate high elves as it is, and she is the exact reason why I hate high elves. Just you just, I don't want to spoil too much, but the way she just addresses the queen of a new land she's never been to. And, she just immediately kind of gets backslapped, and she's like, well, I'm the high elf and you need to listen to me. Her, like Templar said, she hasn't done anything for me to even care about her. I think in episode 2, when they're in the sea and the big scary thing, I was kind of hoping she would get eaten. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was just hoping that, maybe an arm or a leg would go missing, or, that beautiful silver hair, but like I said, the only one I really care about is Poppy. I mean, Poppy's the only one. She's my rock right now.
Rad Dad back in the chat says they've overdone it with her. These female characters in this type of role aren't good. They come off unnatural and too strong. I would agree. It also it feels a little unearned with her. I think because we know Galadriel also from the Lord of the Rings, and I understand what Galadriel becomes.
I don't know Galadriel. I don't know I've vaguely heard Isildur. I've heard that name, but I don't know who it is. So coming from someone who with like just fresh eyes and not a lot of knowledge of this stuff, they really don't make me care.
Sure. But even for me, like I said, self-proclaimed Lord of the Rings nerd, it feels unearned because Galadriel is the one that essentially gets tempted by the demons of Sauron to almost take the ring from Frodo in Lord of the Rings. And then she calms down, and then she equips them and sends them off and gives them cloaks. And yeah, that's her.
It's that girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's her. It's Kate Blanchett,
yeah.
who Kate Blanchett is an amazing actress, and at one time looked like an elf in everything that she did. Like the way they designed all of that shot with just her grace and her presence and her poise. And this girl, she's a fun actress, and I love her like weirdly Scottish accent that she's got going on. But like, I don't think she's nearly as good of an actress, and it feels, again, very unearned. One last thing before we switch over here. Redacted says it sounds like you guys just want to see war action stuff, and like, maybe, but I'm a fan of high fantasy. I read a ton of high fantasy books. I'm all about the political intrigue and the drama and all that. And the entire thing so far feels a little unearned. Shot well, looks good, feels good. All of those things just feels like unearned drama. Like you're just pitched right into the middle of this thing and you don't have any clue what's going on. And so it feels a little like Whiplash.
Yeah,
I don't need it to be.
I was just saying the writing is just like, I like some of the lore and stuff, but it's like, okay, make it interesting though. Just make it interesting. But don't have things just to have things to move the plot along. And I think that's like we're getting it, because there's just some things that are like, oh, we need to get from point A to point B. How do we do that? Let's do this. And it's like, that really makes no sense if you were just going to do it. Anyway, yeah, that's my issue. I like the world. I like the lore being built up and stuff, but I just hope it goes someplace. Maybe like the whole season brings it together. I think this is another problem here when you only release one episode per week. I'm like, you're on Amazon. You have to like go for a whole year anyway. Like when you do Amazon, it's not much. Just give me the whole season. Just give it to me. Let me binge watch it so I can see it in context.
You're not wrong.
They want to keep the hype up for it as long as they can. So they want to drag it out and they want to get as much kind of buzz. Unfortunately, I feel like they've been getting buzz that they haven't wanted about it. And the interest in the show, from my understanding, has dropped off significantly compared to like House of the Dragon, which both came out around the same time. Yeah, I mean, in terms of what Redacted said, I mean, that's fair criticism. I don't need it to be all action, but if you're going to set someone up as like a badass, you need her to do something before you set that up, and they didn't. And I know they're building to more action and conflict, and that's fine, but so far, just none of it's interesting. Like, I don't mind waiting for it, but it doesn't. But I need to care about the characters. I need to be invested in what's happening to them. I need to be engaged by the writing and the political events that are going on. And just none of that has worked so far.
Yeah. And
again, I know it's tough because they're dealing with characters that people already have pictures of, right? Like, I don't envy the guy playing Gandalf. I made fun of the depiction earlier. Episode 5, he kind of starts coming along. But you know, I wouldn't want to fill Ian McKellen's shoes with a character of that scale. Like, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And you know where he ends up. And the same with Galadriel. Like, she's not in the original trilogy a ton, but, you know, Kate Blanchett does a great job, and she's in the Hobbit movies for better or worse. And so we have an established vision of that character. So it's tough to go back when people already know what the end point is going to be and already know what the characters are going to end up looking like and being like. But with the amount of money they spent on this show, I just feel like they could have got better writers. I mean, to me, it looks good, but it feels like expensive fan fiction. Like, it doesn't feel like Lord of the Rings to me. Not really. And maybe that's my own sort of issues outside the show that are kind of coloring my, like, how I'm taking the show in. And that's possible, but it just isn't grabbing me really in any way. So, I mean, I'll finish the first season, but what I watch beyond that is probably, unless it really finishes like strong, I doubt I'll check out season 2.
Interesting. Cool. Bougie, Nav, any last words?
Things have been said, so we're good.
Things have been said. We've got a couple of minutes left here, and I wanted to throw this out. This isn't really a deep topic. Rad Dad, I think that's the difference you get from a show and the author's work in the book. Yeah, books are primarily always going to be better. obviously this is the Rings of Power is a spin-off in the truest sense of the word. It is a spin-off not from even Lord of the Rings, the very first movie series, but from the entire book series. Obviously started with The Hobbit, and then the Silmarillion was kind of written around it by Tolkien, and now we're into the Lord of the Rings, but before that is Rings of Power. And so I kind of wanted to throw out to you guys, like, what are some of the things that are good spin-offs? We're gonna just take a couple minutes here and just talk about good spin-offs that you've seen in your life or that you've experienced, whether that be movies, whether that TV show or books, anything like that. And I'll just want to open the floor.
Let's see here. We'll start this off. Cobra Kai, is that a spinoff from?
Yeah, so we were talking about this earlier. Like,
Kid.
what constitutes a spinoff? My definition of spinoff is that it's a different protagonist. Could be it's the same world, or the same maybe ancillary characters. Maybe there's references to the first story, but it's a different protagonist. So in that, I would say Cobra Kai, if given that definition, Cobra Kai is not a spinoff. It is a sequel, even though Miyagi's not in it.
Yes. I know. I think it's like a halfway between a spinoff and a sequel.
I think it's a reimagining.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I haven't seen a lot of spinoffs that I liked, and like that's like the close. There's Star Trek. I guess there's like some Star Trek. I guess they're like in the same world and everything. I mean, there's like Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. There's Next Generation. Mm-hmm. Those I would consider spin-offs of the original Star Trek series.
Well, like Solo or Rogue One, those are spin-offs.
Mm-hmm. And also, what is the new one? The Andor, basically.
Andor, which we're going to talk about, I'm hoping in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about Andor.
Yeah. And so some of the Star Wars spin-offs I do like. I did like Rogue One.
I liked Rogue One. I liked Rogue One, honestly, more than Episode 7.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I think there's a lot. I have issues with 7. It's like that's a reimagining of Episode 4. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah, and
it's just a reimagining. It's like anyway, I have issues, but anyway, but no, Solo was. I haven't. Have I seen Solo? I don't know if I've seen Solo. I have to go watch that. I can't believe
it's good. I didn't hear good things.
Okay. Oh no, I thought it was good. Thanks for the comment there, Evil Jester Robot. Do you know Paul Walker had dandruff? That's great.
Like Mandalorian, I think that's a good spinoff. Okay,
Mandalorian is a good spinoff. I will definitely agree with that. Bougie, Templar. What about some spinoffs here?
So I'm gonna, I think, shock the world maybe with my favorite spinoff. I thought long and hard about this. I honestly did, and the one spinoff that holds my heart is High School Musical, the series.
And that's all, folks.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're done now. Let's
log it off.
All right. Bougie. I
learned this about Bougie the other day. I didn't know he was so into musicals.
I love musicals, but yes, I still watch High School Musical. Like, for some reason, my kids are into it now, and it's great in my household when I can put that on and not Coco Melon. So, but watching High School Musical, the series, I mean, it's a long name. But I like the music in there. Some of the choreography is cool. The story, it's your typical teenage high school drama where, love triangles galore and stuff, but I'm there for it. I'm a married man and I don't get to experience that anymore. So I get to live vicariously here. I get to listen to some music, dance a little bit. The kids get up and move. So it's the best of all worlds.
All right. Fair enough. Hey, I'm not going to yuck your yum. I get it.
But other than that, my other one is Fear of the Walking Dead. I'm a huge zombie fan. So that's a good one for me.
That is a good one. Yeah. Templar, what do you got?
I've heard mixed. Or was it Tales of the Walking Dead?
That was the game.
Oh, Fear of the Walking Dead.
There's a show called Tales of the Walking Dead or something.
No,
there's the Telltale. There's the Telltale Walking Dead.
Yeah,
show.
the Telltale was Fear. Wait a minute. Tales of the Walking Dead is the game, the Telltale game. And
is
Fear,
it? Okay.
Fear of the Walking Dead.
I think there's a new show as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, mine would probably be Creed. I grew up watching Rocky.
Yeah.
Rocky movies. So Creed, Rocky is still in it. It's the same world, but it branches off with Apollo Creed's son, played by Michael B. Jordan, and he's great in it. And I know sports movies aren't for everybody, but I think it's a great spinoff of the Rocky universe and telling a good story and kind of changing the focus and having Rocky as like the supporting kind of trainer character. I thought it was excellent. Very well done. So that's the best that I can think of off the top of my head anyway.
Okay. I'm going to throw one out there. And then if we have another couple, one of my kind of favorites, well, obviously Harry Potter and then Fantastic Beasts is where to find them. Like Fantastic Beasts is very adjacent to all of the stuff happening in the Harry Potter universe. But one of my all-time favorites is actually the Lego Batman movie. It's a spinoff from the original Batman, obviously, or from the original Lego movie, excuse me. It was a time and place for my kids, and it was a time and place for me when they were growing up, and then the Lego movies came out. I absolutely adore the Lego movies, and the Lego Batman one, it's not as good. Like it kind of wore out its welcome a little bit, but my goodness, such a good, well done movie. Preacher Guy Lurks, thanks for joining into the chat. We appreciate you being here and lurking with us. The way that Will Arnett does everything, and I actually think it's funnier. It's not as well done, but it's funnier than the Lego movie. Like there's a lot more adult humor to it. Yeah, in the chat, let us know another spinoff. Any other spinoffs before we close up shop here?
One more. Tiny Tina Wonderlands. From the Borderlands universe.
D&D D&D mixed with Borderlands.
Yeah.
I think that's
solid.
That's a good one.
People say I have to admit I like Spider-Man, but I have not watched this. But they say this is a really good spinoff. I want to see your opinions. Spider-Man and what is it? Into the
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they say that's a really
Spider-Verse is great.
Yeah, you haven't seen that, dude.
No.
Oh,
I need to. Let's kill the stream and Nav, go watch it now.
Yeah, I know. You got to jump off in a couple of minutes, but my goodness, dude, it's
Spider-Man. I love the games. I love the movies.
It is like one of the best Spider-Man movies there is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very well done.
I
didn't like it as much as others, but it's still great. And the animation's gorgeous.
The animation is gorgeous. The way like the frame, it's a 44 or 48 frames a second instead of 24. So it's like a smooth but cinematic. It's like done with pointillism, so like all the animation is done like a comic book, and then not as like bam thwack like 1960s Adam West type stuff, but then the soundtrack is so good, and the fact that they have like there's just some random people in there, like the dude from what's his name, Jake Johnson from New Girls in there. Stinking what's his face, Nick Cage is in there. Like it's great. There's just random people in there that are just awesome. I mean, Nick Cage is only in there for like 30 seconds, but it's great. Anything else that comes to mind? Deadpool's a good one, I think. Wolverine is probably a good one. Or Logan. I didn't particularly like Logan. Did you guys see it?
No, I haven't.
Did you like Logan?
It was too depressing, man.
That's like my number one comic book movie, like, period.
I mean, that tracks with your personality.
It does. Yeah. That, I mean, depends on the day, that or the Dark Knight is still up there, but like Logan, I mean, yeah, it hits different. I love Logan. It's fantastic. I recommend anyone go see it. Yes, it's dark though. And it is a certain type of story that people might have a hard time with, but that's fantastic. I mean, I would consider Arcane kind of a spinoff, right? Because it's a spinoff of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of recent, I mean, it's hard to say what you would call that. But I mean, obviously that was fantastic.
Yeah, I can go with it. And if you're listening to us in the stream, I just pulled up a Sonic the Hedgehog game. A good spinoff from Sonic the Hedgehog is the Knuckles game. That's a great game, Sonic and Knuckles. I know it's technically has Sonic in it, but like it's a spin-off because it's more Knuckles focused, and Knuckles is an awesome. Redacted says, so watch or don't watch Rings of Power.
Watch it and make up your own mind.
Yeah, watch it. Watch it, and if you're already paying for Amazon, if you're paying for Amazon Prime already, like spend the time.
You already have it.
Yeah, spend the time, watch it. It looks awesome. It sounds awesome. It feels good. It just
it's
may
better
not.
than the Halo. It's better than the Halo TV show.
I mean,
Well, I'm not saying much.
no, it's better. Come on, it's better than the Halo show.
It looks better. I feel like I'd rather watch the Halo show.
Interesting. Okay.
I disagree.
We gotta close up shop. Okay, we will have to discuss.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Bougie, thanks for joining us, man. It was good to have you on the show today.
Yes.
Yeah, Bougie, it was awesome.
We'll do this again.
Thank you for having me, y'all.
Everybody in the chat, we love you. Thanks so much for being here. Make
Thanks,
sure
everyone.
to join us in the Discord, discord.gg/Lux Digital Church. Links are going to be in the doodly-doo below if you're watching online. We love you. Little Susie, thanks so much for being here. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.